lovers. I am so blessed and honored to be in a position to share, tools and tips and tricks that have the potential to heal and to bring you to a place of full sexual embodiment. And one of the tools that I absolutely love and have been using for the better part of a decade are crystal yoni products, including pleasure wands and yoni eggs. And I was so excited to recently come across a brand called Wands, Waands. I met the founder here in Austin and I absolutely loved who she was. I love getting to know the people behind the products that I like to use. And I just loved her mission to really support women and men to explore, celebrate, and honor their sexuality. I felt this transmission of slow, sensual seduction in all of who she was and all that she brought to the world. So I went ahead and gave it a try. I purchased a blue quartz Emerita wand, and the Emerita wand is great because it has this like cool bulby end on it, which is designed for G-spot and cervical stimulation, but can also be used for prostate stimulation. So it's great for men and women and can even be used between partners. So I'm so honored to have built this relationship with her and to be able to offer you guys an amazing discount code. So if you use the code Leola, Leola, that will give you 15% off all products. And the website is wands.com, WAANDS.com. And we'll go ahead and link that in the show notes as well for you. So thank you so much for listening. And also you're welcome for the inevitable pleasure and healing and ecstasy that is coming your way with these products. Let's dive into the episode. Welcome to Talk Tantra to Me. It is such an honor to be holding space for this divine knowledge to make its way into your ears and lifestyle. Today, I'm very excited to welcome Andrew, who is my now husband, onto the podcast.
Hi.
Andrew has been on the podcast maybe a handful of times now. You can scroll back and look for previous episodes, which include Play Party 101. We did an episode called Well-Being as a North Star, where we talked a little bit more about Andrew and his perspective. In the fall of 2022, after just a few months of dating, we recorded High Vibe Relating Part 1 and Part 2. And you can also check out Manifesting Your Life Partner, which is a solo episode of mine. However, Andrew is referenced prevalently in that one as well. So if you enjoy this, definitely go back and check those, bookmark them now. And we'll get into the topic for today, which is threesomes. We're going to be chatting about some of our personal experiences with threesome and really mainly focusing on a story of a recent experience that we had.
Yeah.
Let's
get the party started. Threesomes. I'll come from my perspective and we can start there if you want to.
Let's go.
So for the male listeners, I don't know if your experience tracked or is anything like mine, but when I was a young lad, I thought that if I could have a threesome and then die, that would be the pinnacle of success.
Here you are, 24 threesomes later. Reborn.
Well, if we were to fast forward through that, it was, one, it did feel like, so the first time I had a threesome was with an ex-girlfriend, and she called me up. I was just alone at our messy apartment. She calls me and says, clean up the apartment.
Wow.
And I was like, why? What's going on? I don't know. I'm kind of tired. Like, I don't want to. What's the urgency with cleaning the apartment right now? I'm like 25 at the time, 26, and she's just like, clean up the apartment. And I was like, what? And now I'm starting to get a little, and then the like light bulbs. She's like, oh, I'm coming from work and I have like blah 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 with me. Clean up the apartment, with a tone that suggested that some chicanery was going on. And so I get the hint and go, oh, I don't remember her name, but I think I got the idea. So I quickly clean up the apartment. They come by, they're there, and it is very on. So I go and take a shower after they arrive, and then they are like fully going after it, and that started it. The entire time, here's what I'll say about a threesome.
Which girlfriend is this, by the way?
This is
obviously don't mention names, but
I won't mention names. This is my stripper ex-girlfriend from a long time ago.
I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, I dated a stripper for 2 years. Everything you would think would be great about dating a stripper was amazing, and then everything you'd think would be horrible was horrible. That's the way I summarize it. Also,
just to put in here, we love strippers. Literally, like, it's not just we love strippers like as the dancers. We actually have friends that are dancers, and they come at it from a very conscious, high vibe space, and we love going and supporting them. And
some of them do.
I mean, I think that there's lots of, I think that the strip club in general is a space for sexuality and primal urge to come out. And I don't think that that's inherently a bad thing, but there's also, lots of space for shadow as well, but also lots of space for exploration. So I think just like with anything, there's good and bad, and there's shadow and there's light. But I just wanted to share that, but I've heard a lot about this particular ex-girlfriend. So
yeah, and this would be on the unconscious side of the shadow spectrum. So both for me and for her. Right?
And this was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Also, which is crazy.
It's nuts to think about how long ago this was.
Yeah.
I
was 15 years ago. I was actually 14.
Let's not talk about that. And
I love it.
So for me at that time, the best thing about the threesome was just the fact that I had the threesome.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm going, this is the pinnacle of success for a young man. Nothing is higher than this. No accolades, no amount of money, no material success. All of those things are to achieve what I'm getting right now.
Yeah.
And oh, your hand is touching me now. It's so sweet. I love it. So that is to say, it's at least at that time, being with two women doesn't feel twice as good sensually. Like the sensations themselves, it's like two people going down on me feels not even as good as one person actually focused on going down on me. And so it's entirely in my head, the pleasure of this experience.
Yeah.
In that experience. Yeah. And I also, in my mind, and this can kind of transition into the threesome we had, is I was in my head that the only threesome worthwhile having is a female male threesome. Any other one would be no, that's like, I would be like, that would be absurd. Why would I ever want to have one of those? And it wasn't until much later in life that I realized that I was very, 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 very wrong with that assessment. Fast forward, in my opinion, male, female, or MMF is far superior for me than than an FFM. And I would not be able to state that a priori or before experience. I had to experience it myself to realize how awesome it was.
You had to experience it a couple times, which we'll get into.
Well, I knew the first time.
yeah, I guess that's true. For me, I was very curious about having threesomes, and I didn't have my first threesome till I think I was like 24, maybe I was 23. I was around the same age as you were. And for me, I was living in Greece at the time. I was a digital nomad for a few years, and I was in this exploration phase where I was like just really trying everything, trying different dynamics. And I was on Seeking Arrangement, and this American couple came through Athens. They contacted me, asked me to dinner. I went to dinner with them. The next day, they were like, we'd like to see you again. And so again, we went to dinner, and then we went back to their hotel. And it was weird because I'm pretty straight. I consider myself bisensual, meaning like I like connecting with women sensually, but not really sexually. I don't really want to fuck them. But at that point, I hadn't had much experience with women at all. And so I was actually more attracted to her than I was to him.
Who do you think is gayer, you or me?
I'm telling a story. And you're being rude.
I'm curious though.
You. I let you speak.
I know, but I'm curious, and it's relevant
Andrew
to the topic.
is definitely more gay than me. Oh. But anyways, so I'm actually more into this woman than the dude, surprisingly. And I'm actually really excited to like get this chance to connect with this woman more than the dude. But I'm also like, I get to have this threesome. I also get to connect with this woman. Like, wow, I'm really have a great opportunity in front of me. So we go back to their Airbnb or whatever, and they just like immediately start having sex. There was like no foreplay, no fun like warming things up. Like I didn't really get any opportunity to connect with this woman. Basically, he just like took off his pants and she just like got right on top of him and started riding him. And I was just there watching. And it was off for me. Like, and after like 5 minutes of her riding him, he was like, all right, do you want to get on top now? And I was like, no. I really don't. Like everything about this is actually it's kind of grossing me out. And I was learning. I knew a bit about Tantra at that point. I had done some self-study. I'd done like a workshop or two, but it wasn't like where I am today.
How old are you at this point?
I was like 23 or 24. So anyways, yeah, I ended up just leaving that night without the threesome that I wanted, but I was also really happy that I think past versions of myself before that night would have people pleased and just fucked him anyways and done the whole thing, and I didn't, and that felt really good. But then it wasn't until a few years later, it was actually at my ISTA level 2 that I had my first like real threesome with like penetrative intercourse and everything. And it was with a man that I had already connected with previously in the week, and then a woman who actually wanted to take on the male role. So she wore a strap on and she fucked me with the strap on. She fucked me really well with that strap on.
What role did the male take?
He also took a masculine role.
Okay, so it was like an energetic MMF.
It was an energetic MMF, but a physical FFM, I guess. But I was the object. Like they were both taking me. I was very much like the object in it, but it was hot, and it was like the woman that actually brought me to orgasm, which was interesting for me.
With the strap on?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was like touching my pussy at the same time,
yeah.
But yeah, and I think that the dude was like a little nervous and like, you know, was kind of just it was a little overstimulating for him because I think it was his first threesome.
I wonder what would be overstimulating about it.
Well, also
for your first time.
Also, it's at ISTA and it's a level 2.
It's true.
And so people there are very advanced in the sexual. And so we had a crowd around us. There was a girl who, you know, I obviously can't share names on here, but she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be the what's the person that like announces things."
The announcer?
Well, you know, like when you're watching a sports game, there's someone.
That's the announcer.
Yeah, they do like the play-by-play. She was like announcing the play-by-play at the very
and now the strap-on goes into the butthole, and it's a right. I don't know. I don't know sports very well.
But anyways, yeah, it very quickly, like once they realized. They dissipated, and then we kind of had our own experience, but it was great. But what I really, really wanted, and in that way, I kind of got it that night. I really, really wanted an MMF, a male, female,
with a biological male,
with a biological male. And so Andrew and I started dating, and we obviously have this monogamish relating style, which there's an episode all about monogamish somewhere back in the podcast archives here that you can drop in on, but that creates a little bit of space for us to play with other people, and our agreements with monogamish are fluid and change season to season, but generally speaking, play with other people has pretty much always been on the menu for us.
Well, and the challenge for at least for me, with a partner and a threesome, it's like this person has to be cool. We have to like them. And like, I don't know how to put it into words of like how to like, of finding the like quote unquote right person for a threesome. Yeah. It's like, I need to trust them. They need to be cool. And you need to trust them, and you need to think they're cool, and then you need to be attracted to them. I don't really need to be attracted to them for it to work if it's an MMF. And so,
but I think that it definitely, like, you wouldn't be cool. Like, I think that you would struggle with it being like a dude that would like didn't take care of his body, for example.
No,
like you would just be down.
I mean, I think really more that's indicative of kind of the type of person, right? Because I view someone that doesn't take care of themselves, that's a symptom of some other stuff of why I wouldn't really want to vibe with them anyway. And so, Yeah. I think that answers the question.
But I also could see there being someone that I'm attracted to, and they do take care of their body to my standard, and you still being like, not gonna do it.
Well, yeah, it's about their energy, right? And so that goes into the trust piece. And so if it's and I don't even want to use a bunch of other adjectives to describe it, because energetic, it either feels right with this human or it doesn't. And I could list a bunch of character traits, but at the end of the day, it's an energy and it's a vibe, which makes it a yes or a no.
And it's also just as much about where we are in the state of things as it is about them. So like, you know,
100%.
I could see in different parts of our relationship, the same person that we connected with recently, we maybe wouldn't connect with, just because of where we're at, not because of where they're at.
Yeah, there's times in this where it feels super monogamous and there's no desire on either end to branch out or reach out or explore outside of the confines of this relationship. And there are other times when it feels really, and this can literally change in one day.
Yeah.
There could be one moment of the day where it feels super monogamous, and then later in the day, let's say we're hosting, and then we get in touch with what our desires are before a party that we're hosting starts, and it's actually, okay, well, we feel pretty nourished here, and let's get a little spicy.
Yeah, and I talked about kind of how we created this relationship structure in the monogamish podcast, this idea that our relationship is not defined by a structure. We define that structure moment to moment.
Yeah, and I think the big caveat there that I want to stress is that either one of us can veto any situation for any fucking reason. That means I could be feeling insecure. Like my ego actually can't handle this right now. And that's fucking okay.
In our relationship.
That's
what we've decided.
Because our relationship is in the hierarchy of things. Our marriage is number one.
And that's not to say that if insecurity keeps being the thing, it's like, okay, cool. How do we work with this? And how do we work on this? And yeah, the veto is there, and that feels really good for both of us at this point.
Yeah, because what it says is like, I get it. You're a human being. You don't have to be perfect in your emotions. And I can delay my sexual gratification in this moment for you. Which is, I think, fucking pretty reasonable.
I agree. But there are lots of people that don't feel that way.
I know. And we're kind of teasing out my bias and some against like a lot of poly stuff where it's like, well, that's your problem. That's your insecurity. I'm going to go suck this dick now. Go deal with your shit. I'm like, that's not really, to me, showing a lot of compassion, grace, or respect for the person who's my partner.
Yeah, especially if it's someone that you intend to spend your life with. And I know that it's not like that for everyone. And it's also okay. I've been in relationships with solo poly people. I've been solo poly. I've been in relationships with people that I'm very clear that they're not my person, and it's a completely different intention and relationship for each person. But I also think that there's this urgency comes up for some people out of a place of scarcity as well. Like at the end of the day, if I want to connect with someone and you're feeling insecure about it, for me to like of course it's natural to have a reaction to the no and to maybe be upset, but if there also is this piece of, if you don't trust that there's going to be another opportunity for you to explore outside your relationship, then maybe there's a scarcity or a lack belief lingering within yourself, and that's an opportunity to actually look at yourself too. Where are you being really like grabby takey going out into the world trying to fuck as many people as you can?
Because deep down you think that there isn't enough.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fucking nailed it. For sure. At least for some folks.
Yeah, we hit that from a few sides, and I liked it.
You love hitting it from a few sides, don't you?
Tore it apart. So we've explored with a few like triad dynamics. First, I mean, it was with women first, but we never had like a full on penetrative experience with a woman, but we introduced women into our relationship as like in a threesome.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Role.
Yeah.
First.
That's right.
Which was fine for me. Like,
it was fine for me too.
Yeah, I think that for me in that circumstance, it was like way more about you than it was for me. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this because Andrew really likes this, and like I'm curious and open or whatever. But it didn't really like get me off at all. Like I actually didn't really want the women near my pussy or like pleasing me, but I pleased them, and we pleased you together.
Yeah, and even 15 years later, the best part of that was oh, this is great. I'm doing the thing that is supposedly the best thing.
Yeah.
And that was the best part of it for me, honestly. That and knowing that you were giving. That you were giving to me there in that circumstance. You're like, I'm not like super, like this isn't really doing it for me, but I'm gonna,
throw him a bone.
I'm gonna take one from the team here and get after it. And I was like, I appreciate that, babe. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a tiny little gift for me.
Yeah. So we had that, but then this spring we had an opportunity to evolve with things, and one of Andrew and I's desires or things that we would like to explore more is connecting with other couples. And so we had a male friend, who introduced us to his lover, I guess would be the accurate term. They weren't like exclusively together, but when they were in the same city, they would spend a lot of time together. They met each other, I think, at an ISTA as well. And we had an opportunity to connect with them. Do you want to share about?
We connected with a couple?
We didn't, but that's the lead up into the threesome because we were supposed to.
Oh, now I'm picking. My brain went with different folks that you were talking about.
No.
Now I see. Yeah. Okay. So, all right, check this out, y'all. So we connect. We actually do connect with them, but it was after one of our events with them and another couple.
Yeah, actually it was a little orgy situation, but I wasn't really involved in that. I had already like,
you were on the fringes.
I was more like watching. I was more voyeuring. It was like Andrew and then two other couples, and I was kind of more in the voyeur.
It was like an orgy light, know?
And I think like I got thrown in at one point and you came on me, and like that was.
Yeah. Well, everyone was like, Andrew hasn't come yet. And it's like, let's get Andrew to come. 'Cause like, yeah, it's we all want to go to sleep.
It's his time now.
And I appreciated that. And
so one of those couples.
Yeah. So one of those couples invited us out to go visit them. And again, they're not a couple. They were more lover kind of situations, but whatever. To go out and visit them in Miami. And we acquiesced. We're like, sure, let's do it. So we go out there. Like 2 days before we're supposed to go out there, we get a call from the guy. And he's like, yeah, hey, she's not really down with me anymore. It has nothing to do with you guys. But she's kind of not, like, we're kind of done. So It's not like there's no thing going to happen anymore.
Yeah. Scratch that on the group.
On the foursome A. Yeah. Ixnay on the foursome A for the Pig Latin inclined. So I'm like, all right, well, we already have the tickets and the hotel booked and all of it's non-refundable. So let's just go have a mini vacation, me and Leola, out to Miami.
Yeah.
And so we do. We have a nice little time out in Miami. And but we still really love this dude. He's a great guy.
Yeah, just as a friend. I see him as like a brother.
And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, this dude's super solid. He has done a bunch of work in this space before. I really trust him. And I'm in the back of it thinking like I'm planning an MMF for Leola, unbeknownst to both him and me. Oh, sorry, and Leola.
Yeah, I had no idea that this was. I thought, he's
and
just
neither
coming
did
over
he.
to hang out. But Andrew's like being sneaky.
I am like, I think I can finagle an MMF for Leola here. And I think this guy's going to be down. Because how could you not be? Look at Leola for a second. And I was like, if I was in this dude shoots, I would be a fuck yes anyway as well. And so he comes to hang out at our hotel. And it's got this cute little pool area. And there are these big lounge. They are basically like beds.
Like outside beds.
Outside beds where we're lounging on.
Having a couple cocktails.
And it is a vibe. It is a vibe, at least my interpretation is that it was a vibe from like minute 3. There was like a little cocktail in you, and there was a little cocktail in him, I think. And not me. I don't drink. But I'm like, you put like your hand on his leg, on his thigh a little bit. I'm like, this is so fucking on. And it's like Leola talks about like how she didn't see it coming, and I'm just like,
because we didn't talk about it before. And so there were some things that we didn't do, especially me in this story, like perfectly. And I think one of those is just that we didn't really communicate. So I I had completely written off the potential of us connecting that way. And like, I'm super flirty. I mean, you've seen
There's
me.
flirty, babe, and then there's hand right next to pee-pee when you're lying down.
Okay. I mean, I've done that too with people that I was just when we were just friends. I did a lot of that.
You did.
And you did not receive it. You thought that I was just being a nice facilitator when I did shit like that.
Babe, I'm
a little confused as to where
I'm
my
not
line
mad
is.
about it, babe.
I know, I'm joking.
I was like, what I was picking up on. So I had. Here's where I think we differed, right? You had no preconceived notions of where this night could go.
Yeah.
I had preconceived notions of where this night could go. Then energetically, whether you were conscious about it or not, it was there.
Yeah, it did start to bloom.
Right?
That is true. It started to blossom.
It was totally there. You knew it. I knew it consciously. You knew it on some level. And the other guy also kind of knew it.
He was getting woke to it.
He was getting woke to it too, because Leola was sitting in between us, right? And then the vibe was so obvious it was down.
And I think that I also feel personally, and it's not just from this circumstance, from many throughout my life and hearing from other women, that men tend to escalate those things in their brain and women tend to tone them down. And that's another reason why things like the Me Too movement happen, because things seem to be, from a male perspective, escalating, and for women it's like I have clothes or whatever, you know. And so I think that there's also that piece in play. So
did you feel like you were de-escalating?
I didn't think I was de-escalating, but I thought that I was like cruising along at neutral speed, and until obviously we did talk about it. So Andrew went to the bathroom, I think. So this is where I'm a little confused based on my recollection, because when I remember I needed to get up to go to the bathroom. Yeah.
And then as I get up to go to the bathroom, you ask me a question. Do you remember what that question was?
Yes, I do. So also, to be fair, this was like 6 months ago as well. But I do feel like I can remember all of it. But we both, yeah.
It'll be fuzzy. But
fuzzy,
what was that question?
But yeah, so Andrew gets up and goes to the bathroom, and I made a joke about
also
kissing
love
Tony.
the mic is making like weird like images.
What do you mean?
It's like blinking green and red and. Okay, it's fine.
It's fine. So Andrew went up to go to the bathroom, and I made a joke about kissing Tony. Like I made this joke, and then Andrew
gotta
was
pause
like,
there.
"Oh no, I'm not done."
We gotta pause. Wait.
And then Andrew was like, "Oh no, you should actually do it." And I was like, "Oh really?" Like I really meant it as a joke, and that's where it flipped for me. That's where I was like, "Oh, he wants this, and like I kind of want it, and like all right, we're moving in that direction, right?" And so. Then you went to the bathroom. He and I kissed. I've got to be really careful not to say their name. I keep almost saying it.
We can bleep it out too.
That's true. So he went to bed. So then we kissed, and then you came back, and then I think we started to actually talk about what might happen.
Yeah, I don't remember the joke part. I remember you going sheepishly, being like, "What if?" While you're gone, I made out with Tony. It was like, I have a request. And it's like, and I'm like, well, what was that? What's that, babe? She's like, that I make out with Tony.
I don't think that's what I said. I vividly remember it being like, I was kind of joking, but also like doing a little testy test.
You were not joking.
I was like doing a little test and seeing. But it was a joke. So anyways, but then, yeah, it got egged on. And so then you came back out, and then I think we had like we had a spread conversation, which there's an episode of the podcast all about spread, which is a safer sex conversation framework. And we went downstairs.
Yeah, we went to the room.
Yeah, we went to the room. And I think that without getting ahead of ourselves, I had kind of shared in the spread conversation that this is my first time doing this. I don't really know. I was a little bit shocked too with like how it had moved.
So was he.
And so was he. And I think that because of that spontaneity, there was a little bit of like contraction without realizing it, for me at least. But also excitement and wanting to lean in and wanting to take advantage of this opportunity. But I think that also goes back to the scarcity piece where I don't know if I was actually in that moment fully prepared and ready for what was to come.
How could you be?
Exactly. This is life. You know, it happens. And I think that this is where the scarcity plays in, where I think that maybe deep down there was a part of me that was like, I want to take advantage of this opportunity, because what if it never happens again without realizing it? And anyways, but I shared some of my desires, which were to have, you know, a sweet threesome. I wanted to connect with these men, whatever, you know, we all kind of share our things, and then we went into it.
Yeah. And I heard the sweet one, the sweet part, and I was like, great. And then I think I gave Leola like 3 minutes of sweetness, if that. And I was like, great. All right, time for porn style MMF sex.
Yeah. Pretty quickly it evolved far away from
the sweetness.
What I communicated.
And then and we can get pretty vulnerable here, I think, if you're down, babe. And then Leola, my interpretation of Leola is she's going along with it. She's going through with it, and she's riding with it, and I'm just like, and I'm feeling like how wet she's getting everywhere and acquiescing to all the things and like getting like making all the noises, and I'm like, fuck yeah, we are fucking on right now.
Yeah.
But then
yeah, so during the experience, I'm like going along with it because it is kind of hot. It's very primal, very aggressive, but not really what I wanted, like not what I asked for. But I went along with it because I almost went into like a freeze state where it was like this is so overstimulating that I'm just going to like continue with the experience, and totally failed to advocate for myself and it was shocking, I think, for both of us, because I'm normally so good at that. I'm normally so good about asking for what I want. But in that moment, I just kept going along, even though I wasn't feeling a full yes to everything that was happening in the moment.
Good is underselling yourself. Leola is the best woman I've ever met at advocating for what her boundaries are and what her desires are. So when we finished and she was like, that actually wasn't what I wanted, I was like, what?
Yeah. I was like, what happened to the sweet thing we talked about? But I waited until we were done.
Yep.
And I think that was, I mean, it was, so again, like I've done all of this work, and as Andrew said, the best woman ever at communicating these things, and I still fuck up and I'm still learning. And I think for me in that moment, it was just like, because of all the stimulus, because pleasure is an altered state of consciousness and you might not make the same decisions. We had our spread conversation after I'd had a couple of drinks, and also after we had already started moving some of those the arrows.
It's true, yeah.
And
yeah, that
so
was there.
It's not to say that you can't, like that you have to do things in this certain order or whatever, but it's just being mindful that like that things like this can happen when you don't. And so my trauma response is often to freeze, and it's not to say I was traumatized by the experience, but it brought me back to like, 5-10 years prior, when I would totally just tolerate sex that I wasn't enjoying as a way to just like, I'm just going to shut down until the experience is over and I get through it.
Well, and what was tough for me was I feel like I'm very good at detecting when things are off, like, and when your body is communicating like you're not really into a thing and you're not wanting a thing, even when you're not doing so verbally. And I got none of that. Like, I was like, she is fucking loving this right now. That's where my brain was.
And I don't think you were wrong, because there was a part of me that was liking it. And I also think there was a part of me that was liking the, like, they're just using me and I actually don't want it. And it was like this weird existential kink that came through. But it wasn't from the right, like,
it was from a shadowy place and not a conscious shadowy place.
Exactly.
It was like you were moving through your trauma and not like in a like intentional high vibe way.
Yeah.
It was like it's like when you do like daddy stuff, but because you have daddy issues that are not resolved,
which I've done, and it's the same thing with so much of the kink and fetish world. I had to close myself off from when I first started really committing to Tantra and really working on healing my relationship to my sexuality. I kind of had to stop all that stuff for a while to just like heal the wounds, and then reintroduce myself from a really conscious, evolved, and healed place. And those shadowy pieces still exist. I'm still unpacking it, as we all are. It doesn't end.
It's never gone.
Yeah.
And the work's never done on it. Okay. That's it's honestly kind of hot though.
Yeah.
You being like, they're just like using me, and then I kind of like I kind of like that I am not like, I don't like this and they're just using me.
Yeah. And I think that, again, there's a time and place for that. And I would prefer to be in a space where I'm like consciously choosing it then and not frozen in it.
Of course.
Because like, that's the problem. Because I don't even think that it's bad or wrong to be used or taken in that way and for it to not be for my pleasure. In fact, I've offered myself up for that, as we spoke of in the threesome experience that we had with the woman, which wasn't a full out threesome. But in that moment, it was like, I'm not really into this, but I'm like going along with it. Kind of completely different energy. But anyways, what's important here is just being aware of your trauma response. And for me, it was that frozen energy. And so what I realized is one thing that I would need moving forward is to be like checked in on in a way. So we finished the experience. We talked about what worked. We talked about what didn't work. Do you want to share anything about that?
Yeah. And by talk, we mean had a fight about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so and the poor guy that we're with is with us while we're having like kind of a couple fight about it.
Yeah, it wasn't anything like super like nuts or wild, but it was like you could tell that like I was triggered and then he was triggered because like I was triggered, and then it just kind of
I was triggered. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, you're a fucking expert at telling me what you want and setting your boundaries, and then you just like not do it this time, and it's like, that's what the fuck.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, babe, I don't like, and I was like, I don't want to fucking like do stuff that you don't like.
Yeah. And then I think it made you feel a little bit bad.
I did, of course it did. Yeah, I was like, fuck, babe, I don't want to like hurt you. Which wasn't my
intention, but
like I don't want to hurt you. Like it's like that is orthogonal to my purpose as as your protector.
Yeah,
it's the exact opposite of what I'm on this planet to do.
Yeah.
And so it
brought up a lot for us.
It did.
It brought up a lot for us, and we really spent quite a bit of time unpacking it from a less activated place, and because it wasn't just related to that. It also brought up some things around, what we both like in bed, and like, are we compatible in this way, and how do we have both of our desires met? How do we create space for just Andrew to have his desires met and just space for just me? And we ended up creating different structures and patterns to, like we would have nights where it was like really just about Andrew, and the more like dirty horror porn sex that he liked. But then we'd also have Tantra date nights. And so we kind of got to a really good place with that, I believe, over time, where now we don't really need as much structure around it, but we both feel really empowered to just tap into what's missing in our dynamic at any given time.
Now our flow is, it's not, we don't really, we just kind of like, we have like 17 different flavors of sex in one particular session.
Yeah, that's really very true.
Now at this point.
Yeah.
So.
And then there are also times where we do really commit to one flavor as well, but oftentimes we're very, like we also have quite long sex, I feel like, compared to a lot of people, and that creates a lot of space for us to explore different things in one session.
Yeah, and I don't really care about coming either. It's not really the point.
Yeah.
And so that I'm not in any rush to get to a place.
Yeah.
But I know we're a bit diverging from the threesome topic, but it's fine.
But I think it's also important to close the loop on like how we came to a consensus when I think that at the end of the day, I like the horror sex stuff, and you also like the Tantra sex stuff. But we both have our greater preference, and we've learned how to interweave those and also give each other the space to explore them both, so we both feel really nourished in it.
Yeah, I feel like you also got clarity on what I mean by horror.
Yeah.
And like, because it's funny, because you would, when trying to fulfill the horror thing, you'd be like, I just need money for sex things, and like I'm on the street fucking. I'm like, no, that's not what horror means to me. Like, I'm not turned on by prostitutes. That's not what does it for me. Like,
I just
fantasy,
did like
little
for
tiny,
those that aren't
like,
watching, I go like did like the little like you are into that like a little bit. You can't be like you're not into the prostitutes.
But like a little like, but what it means for me is someone who is so enraptured by like lust or by sex or by me that they are down to do anything.
Yeah.
Like that's what that
Which
means
is
to
me.
me.
Like it's like obvious. Like of course, I literally am like borderline raping Andrew at least once a week because I need it and I want it.
And I think once that clicked for you, it kind of shifted it out of like, oh, this is a very different thing than what I thought this was.
Yeah. So fast forward, or actually not even fast forward, later that weekend, we went to the beach, like the next day, actually, after the threesome, the threesome that, I mean, I want to touch on another thing. You came so fast from that MMF. Do you want to talk a little bit
so
about
hot.
how much you liked it?
It was so awesome. Yeah, of course. So it was so much hotter than I thought. Like, first off, I thought I was just going to take one for the team for Leola for this MMF.
And in the end, it ended up being more about Andrew's desires being met because my desires weren't met from that.
And it was so hot, ravaging, just like with this good friend of mine, ravaging you and having what I thought you perceived being like completely in a lust, like lost in lust, objectified, used space.
Yeah.
It was so fucking hot. And part of what I thought was hot about it is how turned on I thought you were on by it. And like just game for anything that was thrown your way. And I'm like, this object of both of our desires is just getting completely and utterly, I was going to say emancipated, but that's not the right word at all.
It feels right, though.
By these two men.
Yeah.
Who were completely in control and of every aspect of her experience.
Yeah.
Ravaging her. So hot. And yeah, I came... So I actually had to hold it back for like half of it.
Yeah.
That's how hot it was, which is very rare for me. I'm not very sensitive down there. And so it's like, I was like, what is going on right now? So, and now to circle it back all the way to the beginning, in my opinion, MMFs are for me anyway, hands down, the best.
And part of that, though, too, is I remember you sharing, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when it's two women, it's kind of like, oh, I've got to please two women now instead of one. Whereas with an MMF, it's like, oh, now I have to do half of the work of pleasing this woman in a way. So it's like you get to be more in the play and in the exploration rather than feeling like pressure to perform or.
Yeah, kind of. It's like with two women, I now have to protect and please twice as much, and it's not twice as hard, it's like 10 times as hard. And
yeah, it's like juggling.
And so exactly. And so but with another guy, it's like, great, there's another man here who I trust to hold this container of safety for this woman. Great. That is we got this.
Yeah. So and
just with another dude, it's not like half as easy, it's like 1/10 as easy.
Yeah.
Or it's like 9/10 is, I don't know, I'm out of fractions.
Yeah, well, either way.
You're picking up what I'm putting down, though.
Yeah.
Right? And giant big asterisks and caveats, it's like, it's because of the type of people that we're choosing to do this with. If this was another person, well, we wouldn't even be in that circumstance.
Exactly.
But since it's another human that I trust and love very much, this guy's amazing, like, makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
Hold the space.
So the day after this happens, we all go to the nude beach in Miami. And what did you ask him?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so yeah. So I'm a little schemer. And I know Leola didn't get what she wanted out of this. That was another thing that kind of irked me a little bit, too. I'm like, she's got this fucking MMF thing, and she's like upset that she got her fucking MMF, and I'm just like, and I fucking finagled and schemed the whole thing for. I'm like, fuck, it's so ungrateful. I think the words I used were ungrateful princess. It was like the little fucking like princess in her pee, and it wasn't just right exactly how she needed it, and so she's upset. That's the story I made up about it. Anyway, so that all subsided. And we're all hanging out together at a nude beach in Miami. And I'm out in the waves with my buddy. And I'm like, hey, what's up, dude? He's like, what's up, man? I'm like, so, Leola didn't really get what she wanted for this MMF thing that we planned. How about we do another one for her half birthday in June? Would you be down for that? I know we kind of got into a little fight at the end of it might be a little awkward. So if that didn't turn you off from one, what do you think?
Round 2.
What do you think about? Yeah, what do you think about round 2? He's like, without missing a beat, he was like, absolutely, let's do it.
And he later told me that he actually really respected like seeing us in that disagreement, and also like how we held it, and how like he was like he's told me since then how much he respects our relationship because of how real it is, but also how we handle these moments of conflict and still like lean into love and things like that. And I think that that's just,
yeah,
so I'm not surprised that he skipped a beat.
I think this is like worthy of a tangent for a little bit, and it's like, this is something that irks me about just influencer space and podcasting and fucking Instagram and all the stuff, where there is, and I think we talked about that a little bit on another podcast, but it's not completely, but I feel like there is a thirst for and a desire for authenticity, and that is a mirror for the lack thereof of authenticity. It's like everyone's fucking posting their highlight reel. Yeah. And I'm like, I'll tell you what, man, the relationship is not a fucking highlight reel. Okay? Yeah. The relationship is a fucking, like, down in the fucking pits working at shit because two humans are trying to figure out life together. Yeah. And that shit gets messy sometimes. And that's fucking okay.
It's great.
The thing that gets me irked is like, if I show the hot, it's like, we've never had a fight. Me. It's like, okay, cool. I'm really happy for you. 1, I don't believe you. 2, I'm a little sus. But it's like, what evidence are people providing if they're bullshitting everyone?
Yeah. Well, it's also just not relatable as well.
Perfection?
And it's
yeah, it's like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And I mean, we've been conditioned to do it from a young age. I mean, all of the media, all of the Disney movies, all of it that just have this like happily ever after bullshit. And it's like, no, but there is real life here. And actually in these dark moments are the initiations into greater love and depth and learning more about ourselves and each other. Like that example where you didn't really hear me and I didn't advocate for myself. We both saw a little bit of our shadow in that, and we're like, oh, sweet, here's a piece that we get to integrate together. And like, that's magic.
Yeah. And I get to discover, and I get to provide her with the opportunity that she does desire.
Yes. So June 29th is Leola's half birthday. Leola's birthday kind of sucks because it's, if you do the math there, that is December 29th. And December 29th, for those who don't know, is 4 days after Christmas. And having a birthday that close to Christmas, it's kind of like Jesus stole your birthday, pretty much. Only Jesus gets my pardon.
And so I thought, well, what a cool way to celebrate Leola's birthday on like a way that's not crowded by a whole bunch of other stuff and events and things, and give her what she was truly desiring.
Mm-hmm. They say you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And this is something that I really, really resonate with. And as I've invested in living a tantric lifestyle, my relationships have evolved and become so much more juicy and liberating. And I believe that this is something that everyone deserves. However, finding these people can be a little bit challenging at first. And so it is my mission to create more spaces for people to find individuals that are resonant with the tantric lifestyle, that are really resonant with you, the listener, the person who is investing their time into living a life that is expansive and liberating. So with that, I'm committed to creating more and more safe spaces for people to discover their desires and practice their boundaries, to connect in community, to celebrate and to grow together so that we can all step into a more authentic version of ourselves and experience truly unconditional love. So we have Tantra retreats for men, women, couples, singles. We also have female-only retreats just for the ladies stepping into their divine feminine. We have play parties. We have Tantra workshops, Tantra yoga, women's circles. We've got all kinds of really powerful in-person events. You can find all the details at www.talktantratome.com/events. You can also just go to talktantratome.com and click the events tab to find out about all the latest and the greatest. And if you're wanting me all to yourself, I can't blame you. I also host private retreats for both individuals and couples. Those are one-on-one. You get me all to yourself. And I'm available for private Tantra workshops and performances. And this is great for events like your birthday or maybe a bachelorette party or bachelor weekend. We can talk and create something that will be extra special just for you. So I cannot wait to connect with you in real life. But for now, thanks so much for your patience with this brief interruption, and let's get back to the episode.
So we, unbeknownst to you, have a private conversation planning for your half birthday.
Yeah.
Him and I. And I'm like, all right, so we're gonna like wine and dine her. We're gonna take her out, and then we are going to go so slow with her that it is torture.
And it was.
Where she will be begging us to please escalate.
Yeah.
At every step of the experience.
And also to add in, he requested that just him and I have a date together. So a few days before my half birthday, this lovely man and I went out for drinks and we had a really great conversation. And that felt really good for me because I actually really need to have an emotional connection with someone. And this individual, as soon as I met him, I was like, I love this guy. I really felt this like brotherly energy with him. And, that was really precious and sweet, but we had never actually spent time just the two of us. So that was really good, I think, for everyone in the dynamic for that to happen as well. And it was also really funny for me to be leaving the house all dressed up, all cute for a date that wasn't with Andrew.
I loved it and I hated it at the same time.
Really interesting.
I hated it so much. Like, how dare you dress up for this other man? And
there was also this piece after the first threesome with him that you had mentioned how you felt like you would be more jealous or struggle more with the energy of the threesome being more slow and sensual and connective, like I like. And that was part of maybe why it escalated into this more primal energy as well.
Yeah, and I learned a bit about that in particular in the second MMF that we had with him, the one that we're leading up to and talking about right now. And him asking to take you out actually made me trust him. I mean, I already trusted him a lot and made me trust him like 10 times more. I'm like, I want you to connect with her and have an emotional connection and care and love this woman. And so we came in, him and I, with the intention of going incredibly slow. And so the time comes, we take Leola out, we wine and dine, we have a lovely evening. We bring it back home. Everything is flowing in the direction of continuing this evening. And what I really respected about him was it was very clear that he knew that I was going to win. I would be the one to escalate.
Yeah.
So he took my lead on escalating with you. So we would start off and we'd be going very slowly and we'd be just giving some sensual touch with your clothes on. And then I was the first person to like take items off of you, and then he would follow suit. And then we would touch you more sensually with a nice sensual massage and getting you naked, and then a sensual massage while you were nude. And then he waited for my cue to escalate kind of where the hands would go, starting from the extremities and then getting into more juicy and spicier places. But he would not escalate until I escalated, until I gave him the heads up, the permission to escalate, which was a sign I saw of respect for me.
Yeah. Did you guys talk about that beforehand? Or?
No, that was all unspoken. And it was entirely unspoken.
Yeah.
Because we didn't talk about it beforehand. I didn't even know that's something that I wanted. This is the first time doing an MMF of like this.
Yeah.
Or anything that I desired. It was just two people who were conscious, like totally conscious and able to non-verbally communicate.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even, there weren't even like looks given. It was just two dudes reading their vibes and their bodies on what was okay with this woman. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was really special. There was a really, really long build up, and I was getting deliciously impatient.
I was like, oh, you want slow? Let's see how much you want slow, girl.
It was beautiful. And then it escalated. It escalated very quickly after that, though. Like, it went from very slow, and then it was like a flip switch, and it got real raunchy.
It did.
Which I really liked. And we had a lot of fun with that.
But it was like 3 hours, Mim.
It was very long.
Yeah.
It was very long and very good. And I think afterwards I ended up saying, like, okay, like, you know, it's so me after any of our sexual experiences, like no matter what, even if it's just Andrew and I, that afterwards we unpack and say like, ooh, what did you like about that? Where was there room for improvement? And it was so amazing and juicy for me, and so different from the last time. But I think I said to Andrew, nothing will compare to just him and I. Like at the end of the day, like that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I did. I said that.
Aww.
That it like that.
So sweet.
Like that was amazing. I had so much fun, and nothing will ever compare to the sex that we just have, the two of us. And that's my favorite. And I think it's kind of similar to your experience with threesomes, where it's more about like, oh, this is happening and it's cool and different. But in reality, like, fuck, just being met with like the love of your life is just a
pretty great
different experience.
It's pretty great.
But I still would I still would do it again. And I think
would do it again.
I think that I would do it the way that we did it the first time again, but more consciously, that more aggressive style. I would also do the same exact thing that we did last time again. And I would love to do one that's like even more like just focused on me. Because it did end up shifting to be a little bit more focused on you guys later on in the experience, which is fine. And I liked that. But
I respectfully disagree with that one, because it was so like maybe that's because it energetically it felt very similar to the first one, but it still wasn't about him and I. It was still about you.
Yeah, but I would like one that's like remains like very connective and like very, very sensual and soft the entire time. And this one did not stay that way, which is fine. I loved it. I wouldn't change it at all.
I think that's what I mean. I think that's what my point is like him and I were going off of the flow of the night.
Yeah.
And where you were going and the energy you were putting out was to the switch flippiness.
Yeah, and I think that even for me, that was part of me being still a bit like, oh, I need to make sure that they're having a good time as well, you know? And so
okay.
being
that's really great information, right? So the next time, what we can do for next time, all right, you're seeing this live here, well, not live, but whatever, is like, so for the boundary, we can just set a hard boundary at that type of thing. So it's like before it gets spicy, right? And so it's like we're so in it where it's like I want to do all the things. Like, well, no, I'm like, if we set the line right there, right, the bound, like we don't cross into that energy, right? Then that's very clear, and we can provide that for you.
The thing too is that neither of you guys went down on me, which is like one of my favorite things.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, you put your cock in me pretty fast, and then Tony was like, I was going to go down on you, but no, he did.
That's not true.
He did go down on me.
Yeah,
that's true.
I was like,
but later.
Oh, yeah, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking
you're right. But did you?
I definitely did.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely did.
But I think it was after, like, it was like pretty soon after it was very sensual. Then it was like we were fucking, and like it wasn't like the slow build of like touching my pussy. Like I would have liked more pussy touching and tasting before penetration.
We did that. Like I think you timed. So we were there for 3 hours, and it was the last like 45 minutes where it transitioned. For 2 hours and 15 minutes.
No.
It was, yes. Babe, you time traveled.
Either way, at the end of the day, it was great. Would you again? Would do all of it again? And my favorite is having sex with just Andrew. At the end of the day, threesomes aren't my end all be all.
They are a nice item on the menu. You know when you go to a diner and a diner has like 5,000 options
Yeah.
on a menu. So it's one of those where I'm like, oh, I don't normally get spaghetti and meatballs at a diner, but or minestrone soup. But you know what? Let me get some minestrone at the diner. And it was great. Nice. I won't do this all the time, but that hit the
Glad to have
spot.
it on the menu.
Yeah.
And I think too, there's this thing with group dynamics, because I had it when we had the group sex play at one of our play parties, where it was like the boundary was no penetrative sex, but everything else was on the menu, including like eating pussy, sucking cock, touching, all of that. And it was like a group of like 10 of us all kind of like writhing around together in this group on the floor. I had a similar thing where it was like, it's almost like overstimulating with everything happening. It's like I would equate it to like someone like really going after my pussy really hard, and it's like I can't actually orgasm from this because it's too stimulating right now. So it took
like the Sibian.
Yeah, it took. Yeah, I can't really orgasm from the Sibian either. It took like later in that group play where it actually ended up being a dude and then 2 other dudes kind of being around me that I finally actually orgasmed, but it wasn't anything compared to what I feel when I'm again with you. But it was super fun and I would totally do it again. And it's like a lot of the group stuff or the threesome stuff isn't totally on for me. Like it's not the most rewarding for me. I love having it. And I don't know if it's just that it's harder to be as emotionally connective in those spaces because I don't have the same like depth with those people that I have with you, or if it's just because it's still so like it's not like it's like maybe if we were doing it more, then I wouldn't feel so overstimulated. Like it would feel more familiar. I'm not sure, and maybe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, and I went into a different direction, and well, yes to all of that. And I was talking to him about this afterwards. It was like a month later at one of our events. And he's like, yeah, the next one I do, and this is from his perspective, I'm sharing his perspective a bit. He's like, the next one I would do it without a man, with a man and a woman. He's like, I also like MMFs. I'm like, yeah, they're great. And he's like, but I would do it with a man and woman that aren't coupled together.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that makes total sense, because it's very weird coming into 2 other people's like energy that are together. Mm-hmm. And then there's like a hierarchy there, and it would be really interesting. And I expressed the desire to do this, and was like, I would love to go with him and find somebody else and see what that dynamic is like. And
I don't like it,
and you hate it.
But I will allow it. But I do not like it. I really don't.
Because I want to feel what that's like.
I feel like I should at least be able to watch or something.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. Like, I'm definitely not a no to that. I'm a hard yes to that.
I don't know. We'll have to iron out the details.
But I would love to be there without the couple energy and see what that's like. And so at least in so many women have that fantasy of 2 men, and I think it's really hard to find 2 men that are like conscious about it and going into it.
Yeah, I'd love to share, just to kind of wrap up like what we learned from the experience and what I think like is really valuable for people as they go into these experiences. Like, what did we change from 1 to 2? And I think the first thing is like we actually planned a lot more for the second one, and we had a lot more conversation around our desires and our fears and we had a desires, fears, and boundaries conversation the first time, but it was very impromptu and like, again, like I just like was so shocked with what was happening. I don't think that I had the time to really consider what those things were for me. Whereas for the second time, I had a lot of time to feel into that, and I had time to connect deeper with our friend. And yeah, I think that those things, I think what it comes down to is like realizing like what is important for you to have the experience that you need, and really feeling that out and being curious. And like by doing that, you're so much more likely to have an experience that feels amazing rather than re-traumatizing potentially. And so that would be my suggestion for anyone that's like wanting to try anything different sexually, but especially something with more than one other person.
Well, and yeah, it just goes into the risk of spontaneity. Right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, it was a spontaneous moment.
It was.
At least for you two. I was scheming the entire time.
Yeah.
And
maybe there's room for you to let us in on it, or at least let me up. But before he came, you could have.
I could have dropped a hint, but then it would have been a surprise.
Yeah, and also you have a little bit. Andrew has this dark wizard archetype that we've talked about before in the podcast, I think.
Well, I also think from my perspective, I was like, if you surprised me with I'd be like, thank you so much for this. Like, and be like, oh, I'm inviting a girlfriend over for dinner. We're gonna blah blah blah. And then
I think it's
like
a little different for women.
100% it is
for me.
But I'm thinking as a man from my perspective.
Yeah,
right.
You love
and
it.
I'm like, how dope would it be if someone schemed to get like if you schemed for me?
Yeah, and though there's this thing too, where like we've talked a lot about your birthday and how we want to celebrate your birthday with another woman, and you've actually shared very specific desires for that, and I wouldn't have known that. I actually would have probably created something completely different.
Totally true. Yeah. You know? Well, let's be specific actually, because I think this might be useful. So it's like, so my desire is, so I'll share some of the masculine perspective here. It's like, I feel like, and men, I feel like a lot of you can resonate with this. Like, I have to be on all the time. It's like when I'm at the restaurant, okay, I'm going to take the chair that's facing the door. So if anything happens, I can see the thing happening and protect the people that are at the table, my family, the people that I care and I love most about. I'm going at work and I'm making fucking money and I'm fucking providing. And I and like when the other night there was a scary sound upstairs and Leola's like, can you go check that thing out? I'm like, fuck, yep, that's what I'm here for. I go in and grab the gun and go check out the fucking spooky sound, right? And it's like there is a certain amount of RAM in the background that's just always utilized and always being used to protect.
Yeah.
And I want, for my birthday, I don't want to have to perform, be on, or do anything.
And I think that that's actually what I really want to. What I haven't gotten, that's what I mean.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it makes total sense.
Yeah.
And so the request I made of Leola is that if there is another thing, I want it to just be devotional, where I don't have to like worry about pleasing anyone, making anyone come, making anyone feel any particular way. I just get to be revered and devoted to. Which
you specifically outlined as like kind of like a dual, like a 2 or 4 hands Tantra massage. So like linga massage. And so probably not what I would have picked, which like knowing Andrew and his desires, like his more, I don't know, like excitable desires are the more like intense, aggressive, like, you know, oh, let me get this woman that he can fuck as hard as he wants and that will like choke on his cock all night. And then, you know, he shares this desire and it's like, oh, sweet. Yeah. Like, you know, love it. Let's do it.
And I'm not a no to that either. It's just, yeah, for my birthday, what I'm feeling, I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to perform.
Which I love, because I don't think that a year ago that would have been the request you made. And I think it just because of being deeper in this work and around this work more and around me. And also I think that like one of the things that you request most from me sexually now is just like a devotional cock massage.
It's true.
Over like pretty much anything else.
Well, because we're talking about like dealing with like the like trauma through the sex and doing so unconsciously, and a lot of that stuff, to be totally vulnerable, it is from that space.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't really feel control in my life and with the things that I'm doing, so I'm going to exert control in this one area where I feel like I have the control, and that was in the bedroom.
That's why they say that that's one of the theories of why sexual assault and like all of the like sex slavery in East Asia is because it's like the people that go to these sex slaves in East Asia they're people that are like not wealthy, like they're people that are like cab drivers and you know, basically they're also enslaved in a different way. And so that's where they're able to like, okay, I've had this like shit day where I've just had to be this fuck boy, and now I'm gonna go have my control over this in this circumstance with this oftentimes child or young girl. So that really took a turn from what we came on here to say, but I spent some time working for a nonprofit in that space, so I have a little bit of a different context of it, and it's part of the reason that I'm in this work. And I think that it's really beautiful that we've found ways to bring a lot of consciousness into those more dark dynamics, but also shedding light on how powerful it can be to use this energy for healing and transformation. And I think that's so much of what you're speaking into without putting words into your mouth.
I'm just processing what you said. Yeah, that's unreal.
Let it land. I mean, to me, this work, I truly see that this work, this podcast, the information that is here is the work that ends sexual violence. Personally, I think that it's the work that empowers people to recognize that they don't need to rape someone to have their desires met. Or do anything shadowy at all. Like, that's obviously the extreme example, but we've all done shadowy things to get something we want, whether we're conscious of it or not, myself included. I still do it sometimes. I think I did it. Like, what did I want from you this morning or last night?
You wanted something shadowy?
Book. I wanted to read our marriage book in bed, and I did a cute little face, and I manipulated your emotions to get you to read the marriage book with me.
You know, the beautiful thing about that strategy is that even though I know I'm being manipulated, I don't care.
And I don't even really notice that I'm doing it either. So last night before we got to bed, Andrew was very tired, and I was like, "Can we please just read one chapter of our marriage book together?"
And she puts on the fucking Disney princess face and looks up at me with those eyes. She even starts batting her eyelashes faster and more regularly.
It's just built into ladies. I don't know what it is.
And I know exactly what she's doing when she's doing it, and I'm like, I don't care. This is just too fucking cute. Let's go.
Yeah. So, and then we have a conversation about it, which is really cool. And I think that that's a part of this work as well, is just having that self-awareness and having a mirror, such as a life partner that's willing to help you become more aware and show you your blind spots, is super powerful.
Yeah, you know what I would like to be aware of?
What?
Ending this podcast.
Is it time?
I think it's time.
I think it's time. Well, thank you, Andrew, for being here today. And did you have something else?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew, for being here. You looked like you were going to say something. Thank you, Andrew, for being here today. And thank you to the listener for opening yourself up to these taboo topics of open relating and sacred sexuality and sexual violence, even, all the things.